Chapter 1. Marshall. He felt like a boy asking a girl for a first date. His hands were sweaty, his breath shallow, and his heart was thumping. This was silly, he thought to himself. He was a Ramsley. He had been talking to her for nearly 3 years. He had never talked to her about this. Marshall cleared his throat, waiting as the call connected. He had tried to get off work early to be home on time and make the all-important phone call from there. Instead, he was stuck in traffic, waiting as an accident was cleared up. Marshall could not delay the call. There was only an hour for her lunch break, if she was even available. For all he knew, she was in surgery. "This is Jasmine. Please leave your name, phone number, and a brief message. Thank you." Marshall was not sure what to say. He couldn't very well propose over voicemail. A car honked, and he realized some space had cleared up in the street in front of him. Edging his car forward, Marshall wondered if he had missed the tone from the answering service.
"Hi, it's me. Look, you're probably in surgery right now. I was kind of hoping to talk to you about something. Call me when you get done your shift. Don't worry about what time it is here, just give me a call. Hope you have a good day."
"Marshall?" A breathy, slightly accented voice asked. "I just got back from the cafeteria and saw your cell number. How are you? Did you get to do the cholecystectomy?"
"No, Stiles took the gallbladder surgery," replied Marshall, relieved to hear her voice. "The board meeting was pushed up and I had to be there."
"That is too bad," murmured Jasmine. "I have a pacemaker implant surgery this afternoon. If you want, I can send you the chart and say you are consulting with me."
"Nice," remarked Marshall, carefully maneuvering his vehicle forward before stopping in traffic again. Jasmine and he consulted on a number of their patients. They had been doing so for 3 years, ever since he had contracted her as a renowned heart surgeon for a case at Mercy Hospital. Several times he offered her a position at the Ramsley-owned chain of hospitals. She declined each offer. Instead, they talked on a regular basis about the cases they had. Over time, they had ventured to talk about nearly everything that was happening in their lives. It was why he wanted to speak to her now. Marshall hoped she felt the same way he did. "I was hoping to speak to you about something else, though."
"Is this about your father's ultimatum?" wondered Jasmine, homing in on his thoughts. "I've been thinking about it, and your brother Parker is very brave for taking on a wife he has never even met. Also, did the engagement ring work to get Gabe to agree to marry Brittany? Or was it too much? I think it may have been too much." "Don't tell me. You've gotten engaged to Brittany by accident." Her delighted voice dissolved into giggles.
"I am not engaged to Brittany," smiled Marshall, enjoying her laughter. "Gabe took the bait. You were right. The ring was enough to push him over the edge and propose to Brittany himself."
"Oh, good!" exclaimed Jasmine with satisfaction. "I am most pleased. What was it that you wished to speak about?"
"I know I said I was okay if I lose out on my inheritance," he began with some trepidation. "It doesn't affect me the way it will my brothers. I'm a surgeon, and I can do surgeries full-time happily. The only thing I might regret is, as part of the board, I get to push a lot of charity work. I have made Ramsley HMC a leader in pro bono work and research. I'm proud of it."
"You're having regrets in your decision," mused Jasmine.
"No, I have no regrets." Marshall took a deep breath. "However, it did get me thinking about who I would want to spend the rest of my life with, and I thought of something. I like talking to her, she makes my day better, and we seem to click. I really like her."
There was a slight pause. "Who is this mystery woman?" This was it. This was the moment. Marshall was about to take a leap of faith. A car horn sounded. Distracted, Marshall moved forward, and more horns blared.
"You."
"What? I couldn't hear you," explained Jasmine. "Are you in traffic?"
"It's you," Marshall said louder. "I see a future with you."
A truck horn blared loudly. Marshall looked to his passenger side in time to see a truck coming toward him at too high of a speed from the off-ramp. Metal and plastic screeched as the frame of Marshall's car buckled. Glass shattered. The airbag went off as the seatbelt tightened, cutting into Marshall's chest as the car moved sideways. "Marshall, are you okay?"
A concerned Jasmine asked. "What happened? It sounds like you were in a car crash." His ears were ringing. His face felt bruised from where the airbag had hit him. His chest was in pain. There was a gasping breath, and Marshall realized it was him. He concentrated on breathing in and out, slowly, deeply. "Marshall?" Jasmine was sounding more panicked and tinnier. The Bluetooth in the car had cut out, and she was on speakerphone from his suit pocket. "Talk to me. Tell me if you're okay." "There was an accident." The words tumbled from his brain. Marshall brought his fingertips to his stinging forehead. They came away bloody. He blinked as a drop of blood tried to enter his eye. Wiping his forehead, Marshall tried to take stock of his condition. "I think I'm okay." "Does anything hurt?" Jasmine called out. "I can barely hear you." Reaching into his pocket, Marshall pulled out the phone, pressing it to his ear, which was still ringing. "I'm all right. It's just some bruising and a cut to my head." He unbuckled his seat belt. Thankfully, it was the passenger side which was crumpled in. If anyone had been in the seat next to Marshall, they would have sustained some serious injuries. "What happened?" she wondered. "I think I was hit by a transport truck," surmised a bemused Marshall, getting out of the car. Sure enough, embedded in his vehicle was the front of the smoking tractor-trailer. "Wow." Smoking? Panic flared in him. "Wait a sec." Marshall tucked the phone back in his suit jacket pocket as he came around his vehicle, climbing between his bumper and the car behind his. Jumping on the running board of the truck, he tore open the door to find the smoke had filled the cabin of the vehicle. Sir, you need to get out." "Oh, I would, but my seatbelt won't undo, and I dropped my stupid pocket knife on the floor. The brakes failed as I came off the ramp," grumbled the man as he coughed on the smoke. "You need to get out of here." Marshall leaned over, looking at the floor mat, trying to find the knife. "You need to run," the truck driver said gruffly. "If the engine catches fire and spreads to the cabin, there'll be nothing from stopping it getting to my load. I'm carrying a Class 3 gas in the tanker behind me." "I don't know what that means," stated Marshall as he found the knife. Grabbing the seat belt, he began sawing at the safety device. "It means this whole truck could blow higher than a firecracker on New Year's Eve," grunted the driver. "Are you injured?" asked Marshall. "I'm fine. Truck took the brunt of the accident. Your car got the worst of it." The trucker's eyes widened. "Your car just went on fire." "Do you have a fire extinguisher?" questioned Marshall as the seatbelt gave way. "Behind the seat." The trucker pushed away the seatbelt. "It's too late, though. What we need to do is evacuate everyone nearby." "Go." Marshall helped him down from the truck. "Tell people to go." Not waiting to see what the trucker would do, he flipped the seat forward, looking for the fire extinguisher. "Marshall?" Jasmine's voice came from his pocket. "What are you doing? Tell me what is happening." "Found it," muttered Marshall as he grabbed the fire extinguisher. A rush of heat hit him as something in his car exploded, and Marshall automatically ducked as a reaction, even though he was somewhat shielded by the door and the cab of the large truck. Looking at his brand new burning Maserati, Marshall did not think that the fire extinguisher was going to cut it. However, he had to try. He had to give everyone enough time to get away from the impending explosion. Marshall hopped out of the truck. Pulling the pin on the fire extinguisher, he aimed it at his car, hoping it would impede the fire a little before it spread to the truck. Even if it was only for a couple of minutes, that was more people who would be able to get to safety. "Talk to me," yelled Jasmine over the phone. "Say something. What is happening?" The extinguisher sprayed and finally depleted its supply. Marshall grabbed out his phone as he turned to run through the mass of cars. "I'm okay." "Marshall," a relieved Jasmine said, "you have no idea how worried I was. Are you a safe distance from the transport?" "Not really," replied Marshall as he spotted someone waving a hand out of the passenger side of their car. "Hold on a moment." Gasping for air, his sore ribs protesting, Marshall wove his way through the now abandoned vehicles to the car where the person was. "Oh, thank you," an elderly woman cried. "My husband, I think he's having a heart attack." Marshall looked back at the transport, judging that they were probably still too close. He really had no idea, but it would be better to be safe than dead. "Ma'am, you need to get out of the car."
What about my husband? She looked tearfully at Marshall.
I'm a doctor. I will look after him, stated Marshall. He went around to the driver's side of the vehicle, opening the door and checking the elderly man. Chest pain? The elderly man nodded, trying hard to breathe through the pain. The fingers of his right hand were digging into the flesh of his upper left arm. Okay, seatbelt off. Marshall reached across him to undo the seatbelt. First, we're going to move to a safe distance. Then we can worry about your heart. Marshall put his phone back in his pocket and pulled the elderly gentleman out of the vehicle until he was able to lift him up to wrap an arm around the man's torso and pull the other man's arm across Marshall's neck. Marshall grunted, bearing most of the man's weight as they moved forward. The wife followed them.
Do you think it's wise to move him? She fearfully asked. We should wait for the ambulance. They say never to move someone after an accident. I don't want my husband to be paralyzed.
Keep moving, Marshall ground out. He was not very far when another man came to help him, grabbing the other side of the ill elderly man. Thanks. Let's go, urged the stranger. The tanker is going to blow any minute. They hobbled as fast as they could, getting to where the crowd was being held back by a group of frazzled policemen who were trying to hold the line. Marshall directed his helper to let the elderly gentleman sit while he checked on him. He's still breathing, still alive.
What sort of doctor are you? Asked the elderly woman suspiciously. An herbalist? A foot doctor? What do you know about heart attacks?
Ain't that funny? An amused voice spoke, Doc Ramsley being asked if he's a real doctor. Dr. Colburn, Marshall greeted his half-cousin. Our friend here thinks he's having a heart attack. Is he now? Molson Colburn crouched down, pressing his stethoscope to the man's chest. He closed his eyes, concentrating on listening.
Are you a real doctor?
The elderly woman frowned at the tattoos on Molson's neck. I'm a resident at Mercy Hospital, explained a patient Molson, still listening to the heartbeats. They let us out on a field trip to the accident scene today.
Then you're not a real doctor, she sniffed. We want a real doctor.
We're both real doctors, coughed an irritated Marshall. He searched his suit pocket for his phone and came up empty. Your husband isn't well, concluded Molson. We'll know more once we can get him to the hospital for tests. Why don't you tell me what sort of medications he's on? The elderly woman began a litany of medications. Marshall stood, looking back at his burning car. He must have dropped his phone when he had been pulling the elderly man along. Marshall couldn't see it nearby. The tanker exploded. There was a gasp from the crowd as everyone instinctively flinched away from the fireball hurling upward. The police urged people to step back further as a fire truck tried to get closer to the blaze. Hey, want to help me get Mr. Possible Heart Attack to the ambulance? Questioned Molson, seemingly impervious to the chaos. Sure, Marshall grimly agreed, pulling his attention away from the angry fireball on the street. He assisted the elderly gentleman to stand, supporting him with Molson as they wove through the crowd to find an ambulance. The elderly wife chattered fretfully in their wake the entire time. Once they had deposited the pair with paramedics, Marshall grabbed Molson by the shoulder before he could head into the crowd to help more patients. Can I use your phone? Mine is back in the explosion, and I need to call someone. Sure thing. Molson dug his phone out of his pocket of his scrubs. You going back to the hospital? I wasn't paged, frowned Marshall as he tried to remember Jasmine's phone number. Usually he just selected her from his contact list, so it was difficult to think what the digits were. Was it a large accident that shut down the freeway? Pretty big, shrugged Molson. I heard something about a tour bus, so I'd expect a lot of injuries. This isn't what I meant, though. You should get checked out. It's just a scratch, dismissed Marshall as he dialed numbers on the cell phone. Molson grabbed Marshall's head and pushed the hair out of the way to inspect. It's 5 stitches minimum. Get to the hospital in one of those ambulances, or I'll take my phone back. Molson let Marshall go a little roughly, cocking his head to the side to see if Marshall would concede to his ultimatum. Marshall frowned at his half-cousin, trying to decide how serious he was. While they were now family and worked at the same hospital, They were still cautiously getting to know each other. "Okay, I'll meet you at the hospital to return your phone," decided Marshall, as he took a chance on the last digit and put the phone up to his ear. It was ringing. "Your girl?" questioned a curious Molson about the phone call Marshall was making. "Maybe. I hope so. Don't you have victims to see to?" asked Marshall, hoping for a little privacy. "Sure thing, Doc." An unrepentant Molson grinned as he walked away into the crowd. "Hello?" came Jasmine's worried voice. "Jasmine?" Marshall closed his eyes in relief, surprised he had gotten through to her. "Marshall! When the phone's cut out, I thought—" She trailed off, obviously upset. "I'm okay," he assured her. "So is the guy with the possible heart attack. Everyone is okay. I just lost my phone in the chaos." There was silence on the phone. "About what I said earlier," began Marshall nervously. "Marshall," Jasmine softly said, "I really think you and I could have a future together." Now that he had started, Marshall found the words tumbling over themselves. "We're friends. I can talk to you about anything. I like you. In fact, you're the only woman I have ever considered marrying."
"There are things you don't know about me," warned Jasmine.
"I'll learn them," quickly replied Marshall. "I'm sure there's stuff you have to learn about me yet. It's part of what marriage is, learning about each other."
"You cannot be serious," chided Jasmine. "We've never even met, not even a Zoom call."
"I want to meet you in person," declared Marshall. "I want to take you on a date. A lot of dates. When works for you?"
Jasmine had a breathless laugh. "You're not serious. You're just feeling a little left out now that both your brothers are getting married."
"I'm very serious," defended Marshall. "To show you how serious I am, I'm coming to your hospital. I'll bring flowers and a ring. I'm ready to go down on one knee."
"Marshall, no," giggled Jasmine. "You are joking."
"I think I might love you," he admitted. "Do you hear me? I love you."
Silence greeted him. When it continued, Marshall pulled the phone away from his ear. The battery had died. If you enjoyed this chapter of The Wedding, Book 10 of the Ramsley Brothers series, look for the second chapter. Also consider subscribing to my channel and hitting the little notification bell. This will help you to get notifications every time a new chapter drops. Happy listening!